The year is 1470. High in the mountains of Thessaly, a bell rings for the last time. Its sound travels across stone valleys and pine-covered slopes, echoing through places where it has been heard every morning for more than a century. Shepherds pause. Birds scatter. The echo fades, and something ancient quietly ends. Inside the convent of St. Catherine, 23 women kneel on cold stone floors. Their knees ache. Their backs bend with age, with years of devotion, with lives spent in silence. Their lips move together, shaping prayers they have spoken since childhood. But today the words feel different. They feel heavy. They taste like ash. Like goodbye. Beyond the convent's walls, the horizon glows red. Not from sunrise, but from banners. Crimson cloth snapping in the mountain wind. The symbol of an empire that no longer negotiates with history. The Ottoman army does not approach like men marching toward battle. It moves like something inevitable. Like floodwater. Like fire creeping uphill, consuming everything that once stood in its way. Stone villages. Churches. Memories. Nothing stops it. Sister Eleni, the abbess, rises slowly from the floor. Her hands close around a silver crucifix worn smooth by generations of prayer. It belonged to the abbess before her, and the abbess before that. 3 lifetimes of faith pressed into a single piece of metal. Her hands tremble. Not from fear, from understanding. She knows what is coming. They all do. What none of them can imagine is that death would have been mercy. Because what is about to happen will not be remembered as battle or martyrdom. It will not be sung about. It will not be carved into monuments or taught in schools. It will be erased, buried, hidden beneath centuries of silence. This is not a story of conquest. It is a story of removal, of what power does when it decides that certain people must not exist, not even as memory. The real question is not whether you can hear this story. It is whether you are willing to remember it. 17 years earlier, in 1453, the unthinkable happened. Constantinople fell. For more than 1,000 years, the city had stood as the beating heart of Christendom. Empires had risen and collapsed around it, but its walls endured. Its bells rang. Its churches stood defiant against time. Then the cannons came. 53 days of thunder and smoke. Walls that had resisted armies for centuries shattered under gunpowder. Streets filled with blood. The last emperor died fighting among his people. When the city fell, something else fell with it. The illusion that the old world could survive. The Hagia Sophia, the greatest cathedral ever built, was stripped of its crosses within hours. Mosaics that had watched emperors crowned were plastered over. Bells that had rung for 900 years were torn down and melted into weapons. Within a week, the call to prayer echoed from its domes where hymns once lived. Sultan Mentu walked through the shattered nave and declared the church a mosque. Not because he needed another place of worship, but because he understood something most conquerors never do. You do not defeat a people by killing them. You defeat them by erasing who they were. Men did not look west and see land to conquer. He saw wounds that refused to close. Scattered monasteries. Lonely convents. Bells still ringing in conquered valleys. Each one was an accusation. Each one said, "We are still here." Every cross still standing cast a shadow of defiance. Every nun praying in Latin was living proof that faith could outlast armies. That could not be allowed. So the empire refined its method. Massacre was crude. Massacre created martyrs. Martyrs became legends. Legends inspired resistance. The Ottomans wanted no legends. They wanted silence. They perfected something far more elegant: erasure. By 1470, the system was tested and proven. Greek monasteries in Macedonia, Serbian convents in the Balkans, Armenian churches across Anatolia, The pattern never changed. First came the offer. Then came disappearance. Some buildings were converted. Others abandoned. Some communities were quietly removed without fire or bloodshed. No songs. No saints. No memory. The convent of St. Catherine sat high on a hillside in Thessaly, far from cities, armies, or allies. Isolated. Forgotten. Perfect. Inside its walls lived women who had chosen silence long before silence was forced upon them. They were not soldiers. They were not rebels. They were women whose weapons were rosaries, and whose armor was belief. Most had never held a blade. Some had never even seen one. Sister Eleni had led the convent for 12 years. Before that, she had tended the sick in a village that no longer existed, consumed by plague in 1448. She did not flee the world when she came to the convent. She came to understand it. Sister Magdalena was 19. Her hands still bore the calluses of farm work. She joined the convent after her family was killed in a raid. It was the only place she had felt safe since. Sister Theodora was 70. She had buried 2 abbesses, survived emperors, and watched wars blur together into memory. She had stopped fearing death decades ago. None of them had prepared for this. The first cannonball struck just after dawn. It did not hit the chapel. It struck the bell tower. Stone exploded outward. Iron screamed. The bell shattered mid-swing, raining fragments into the courtyard where the sisters grew herbs for healing. The sound was not loud. It was final. Hands that once tended plants now covered ears. Bodies shook. Some wept silently. Sister Eleni did not scream. She raised her crucifix, and she began to sing, Kyrie eleison, Lord have mercy. One voice became 2. 2 became many. 23 voices rose against the thunder of empire. But empires do not listen to songs. By midday, the gates were breached. Ottoman soldiers poured into the courtyard, not with drawn swords, but with ledgers, quills, and ink pots. They moved with precision, calm, professional. They counted, they recorded, they catalogued. Because to the empire, these women were not enemies. They were assets. A translator stepped forward, a Greek man from the region. His voice trembled as he read from the scroll. Shame hid in every syllable. By order of Sultan Mehmed II, all subjects of the conquered territories must submit to imperial authority. Those who convert will receive protection. Those who refuse will face the consequences of rebellion. Sister Eleni stepped forward. Her face was calm, almost peaceful. She spoke in Greek so clear that everyone understood. Tell your sultan we have already given our lives to a king. We have nothing left to surrender. The officer in command, Hassan Pasha, did not raise his voice. He smiled, because he knew something the nuns did not yet understand. The Ottomans had perfected the art of breaking people without killing them. That night, the women were locked inside their own chapel. No food, no water, no light. Only darkness and the sound of soldiers outside, laughing, eating, living, waiting. 2 young sisters began to weep quietly in the corner. Their sobs echoed off stone walls. Then Sister Magdalena whispered a song. The Lord is my shepherd. Another voice joined. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Another. Slowly, the weeping stopped. This was the moment the Ottomans miscalculated. These women had spent their lives preparing for suffering. Fasting. Cold vigils. Silence. Submission. What the soldiers believed was torture was simply discipline. Hassan Pasha was patient. He had seen this before. In Macedonian monasteries. In Serbian ruins. In places where faith burned brightest just before it failed. On the second day, the doors opened. Bread and water were placed on the floor. Clean. Real. The sisters stared. Their throats burned. Their stomachs twisted. The younger ones looked to Eleni. Sister Theodora spoke first. They want gratitude. Weakness. Eleni nodded. Then we fast. The food remained untouched. By the third day, lips cracked and bled. Hands shook. Some could barely stand. Still none broke. Hassan watched from the courtyard. Impressed. Frustrated. On the third day, he entered the chapel himself. You are not criminals, he said. You are mistaken. The Sultan is merciful. He offers you new lives, new names, protection. All you must do is speak the words. Silence. Or, he continued, you may come with us to Constantinople. The Sultan himself will hear you. A pause. The road is long. The weak do not survive it. It was not a threat. It was a promise. Sister Eleni looked at her sisters. Some prayed with eyes closed. Some stared at stone, searching for strength. She turned back to Hassan. We will walk. The smile returned. Good, he said. We leave at dawn. That night, the women held each other in the dark. No speeches. No fear spoken aloud. Sister Magdalena began to hum a hymn sung at Vespers. One by one, the others joined. Outside, soldiers paused to listen. Years later, one would tell his grandson about women who sang themselves into silence. That story would be forgotten too. At dawn, they marched. 23 women. Hands bound. Bare feet. No carts. No mercy.